Okay, so I
I
think
think it's,
we're up to nine, and
yeah,
so let's.
yeah. I'm saying we have a few people. Yeah, good. Let's maybe we can get started
Yes.
on the topic, which is quant trading today. Getting started, all the basics that's related to that, I guess. It's I was thinking maybe it would be nice to kind of maybe start with what actually our origin story, because like we started out with you were first working on the whole infra, and we
Oh
were
yeah, yeah,
focusing on chain analysis, and that was a very interesting thing.
yeah, sure,
And,
yeah. So, and we can do like a short round of introductions, maybe.
yeah, maybe that. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so I'll start. My name is Jerk. I'm 46, live in the Netherlands, three kids, and a lovely wife. Have a developer background, have been programming my whole life, and kind of moved through several companies providing services to the financial sector, and got into cloud computing about 8 years ago. And yeah, so I've been spending most of my time there. I think 3 years ago, one of my colleagues said we should get into arbitrage trading, and I thought it was a great idea. Didn't really like got it immediately, but yeah, it's there was clearly money to be made there, especially during that time. Right, you had price differences of like $800.
Yeah, that was
Across
crazy.
exchange. It was really interesting. But yeah, being the nerd that I am, I thought, well, if we're gonna do arbitrage trading, we first need to develop a trading platform. So I immediately started coding and started aggregating. Started aggregating.
Naturally.
I actually never got around to to arbitrage trading, but so yeah, okay, that's kind of. But it did end up with a pretty cool platform to aggregate data for multiple exchanges and multiple markets, and yeah, so I was developing that, and then yeah, I didn't really in my network didn't really know that many people that were actually doing like interesting stuff with crypto. It was more people just talking about, well, back in the day uh, when the Bitcoin hype was going on, and then
Yeah.
when it crashed more or less, people didn't want to talk about it anymore. So
Yeah.
it's like, well, let's not talk about that.
Yeah, that was the trip to the Canaries. That was right there.
Yep. Yeah. So that and then so I bumped into you, Aiken, and through a mutual connection, and Swati, our COO, and
Who is in the chats, by the way? Hey, Swati.
hey, Swati, and yeah, so that was I guess similar way of thinking, love at first sight, right, so to speak.
Yeah, yeah, for
And
sure. Yeah.
so we hit it off and started working on developing this service as an API. And then recently, I guess, right. So the difficulty with an API is for customers to be able to use it, you need two things, right? One is you need to do a significant investment in software development to actually be able to consume that API. And then two,
Yeah.
if you have a running or operation, right, you need to change and switch. And
Yeah, and that's for like most quant, that's like a real challenge actually, the whole infra stuff. And that's
yeah,
yeah, really keeping that operational, it's quite difficult, especially when you're running automated trading.
yes, exactly. So then a couple of months ago, I guess we kind of pivoted and started working on a channel to be able to bring that data to the people that actually use it without having to rely on the middleman, which is the developer. We all know what those kind are like, right? Is semi-autistic. I'm talking about myself. Right?
Yeah, speak of the devil, huh?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So a difficult middleman, right? That is probably rather lazy than tired. That's a Dutch expression. So yeah, so we try to cut out the middleman, being a developer, and also make that data available, not with very expensive subscriptions, but ultimately in a ideally a pay-as-you-go model. And so our current offering is focused on allowing users to select any data set they want on any market, on any instrument class, from several data providers, and just load that into a database, which is a familiar environment for them. And then they can use the tools that they're familiar with to get that data selected from a table, and then start working with it. So
yeah, and it's really the yeah, that kind of those kind of tool sets, the database, understanding how to access it with Python, kind of having really the access to the large amount of data, because like I mean, as a quant, you have the ability to optimize and automate things. So you can just check the same analysis across all markets. You're not kind of, when you're looking at the charts, you're kind of stuck there in that one market and you're visually processing it, or you're writing something in the paper, you're kind of figuring that out or making notes. But like really the whole key here, like, and I guess with every programming that you do basically is optimizing as much as you can to make it as simple as automated as possible, basically, to kind of to run the screening. Yeah, and that's, I think that's probably like what the most about like the biggest benefit of being a quant actually is kind of on the automation side, I would imagine.
Yeah, and then actually, and we try to solve basically two things. One is the data logistics part, right? So getting that data actually in a database in a normalized format. That's one problem we're tackling. And then the other thing is actually giving you the opportunity to without investing upfront in data sets, to basically try them out, all of them, right? And see which market your strategy might work best in, right? So instead of optimizing for one market, you could just find the right market that matches your lazy strategy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, that SMA cross strategy. Yeah, exactly. That's the one. Yeah. Yeah, but it really is. Some of the data sets are very expensive, actually. It depends how you go, but yeah, kind of getting the hunch before you actually go and like make the whole investment into purchasing like a very expensive data set. I mean, it's good to be able to do that, especially if you're not like trading with a firm and stuff.
Yep.
So yeah, but this, so these are actually, these were the problems, or like kind of things we were kind of putting together in the past. It's been a year now, a bit more than a year, I think.
Yep.
Yeah, coming up with the whole problem sets and stuff. But yeah, but it's like usually I know you're like a very grand master of the databases and the data pipelines and all of that. Wow. So it's like usually the data is like in a database, right? Like generally for, when you want to like kind of access the data as a person who wants to run the analysis, it's going to be stored somewhere, and it's usually with a REST query and a WebSocket query, right, or something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. So one part of our product is basically querying the APIs of exchanges and storing that data, then basically aggregating that data, normalizing, enriching that data, and then storing it in our own database, in our central database. And then now with our Quant Desk product, you can actually get it into your local database, right? In an environment that is personalized for you. It's a private environment. Yeah, so we're looking at that now.
Yeah, maybe we can just kind of, go through because we have a few things in mind. So we can kind of, I think it'll be nicer to kind of show what we're talking about as well.
That's great. Yes.
Because there's always like a tool set that a quant has to work with usually. I mean, even if it's like a Python script that you write in a terminal, just like basically lines of code, but it's always makes life easier. So like the kind of stuff that we're working is usually just it's a data catalog here. So there's different data types usually that vary on granularity, but usually candle or open high low close data is the most used one, I think.
Yep.
Then there's ticker data, which is usually just the latest price, and then order book highest and lowest offers.
Yep.
There's raw trades, so that's basically tick data already. So that's like every single trade that's being entered, and that's a large data set as well.
Pretty large, yes.
Yeah, and the same can be done with the order book as well, right? We can just store the stream of the order book, and then that's called tick data as well.
Yeah, so order book snapshot is the next thing that we're working on and to make available to our Quant desk users. And so these are basically order book snapshots that basically contain, let's say, the top 10% of the bids and asks, and then probably it kind of varies per data provider, but probably with 10 to 30 second resolution.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and you will be able to load that into the database as well, and then so if there's a moment in time where you feel your strategy is suggesting buy, and you want to kind of see there's somebody commenting.
Oh, there's a comment.
Yeah.
Oh, I cannot see that.
Okay. So if the connection is not good, we are recording the event, right?
Yeah, for sure. We're recording the event and we're gonna upload it into YouTube afterwards. So there's a couple ones as well before that we've done. So it's in the ChainSlayer channel in YouTube. So maybe we can post a link or something there.
Yeah.
And we have the community, by the way. Maybe we can put a link to that as well. And in the meanwhile, we can just, so basically the idea is that, anyways, we need to access data. So in how we've solved it is in this data catalog. So it's possible just to select the data sets, select the time frame, create the table, and then basically, however, you do this stuff, you're gonna have to, somewhere the data is stored in a database. So usually it looks like this. So basically, what we're seeing is a series of columns and rows. So that's a data table where basically, I'm just putting on so I can see your face if there's something. So what we're using is QuestDB. So it's a time series database that's optimized for performance. So because we're talking about large data sets, and generally as a quant, I mean, you're not going to be processing only like 1 week of data, but this will generally be years and years. So we're talking about tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, or millions of rows. So database performance is a big thing that needs to be considered, I think. So for us, we're using QuestDB. So for anybody who's familiar with that, it has the same language. So it uses SQL language, so same as a SQL database. But I guess the internal workings are a bit different. And QuestDB also has these webinars where they explain the technical differences, I think, of why it works like that.
Yeah, it's very much optimized. It's also a very lightweight database, and they designed a very efficient storage model that allows them to very efficiently query data across very large data sets. And in addition, this being a time series database, which is optimized for time series, they have certain query functions that you can use to, for instance, relate order book snapshot data with, for instance, candle data, even if the timestamps don't perfectly align, which they never do in practice, right? So, and so they have very interesting capabilities there that makes it very easy to to find order book data or put it in the right or relate it to the right candle, and that's very, very convenient. Yeah. So I think, and this is something we kind of skipped over quite quickly, but if we go back to the workspace tab, where you selected some data sets, in particular the last one on the bottom, right, where you so on the managed tables. So we saw you, Ekin, basically creating a new table from two data sets. So it's the spot data from the 1 hour Kraken candle and a 1 hour Binance candle for EOS BTC. And so by creating this table, right, the workspace actually started loading that data into the database. And so one of the things that we also kind of skipped over, but might be interesting, is you have the option when selecting these data sets to also get the workspace to keep them up to date, which means that as new data becomes available, and in this case, that will be every hour, but for minute candles, that will be every minute, it will insert these new data points into the database continuously until you pause the data loading, and you can resume at any time.
Yeah.
So, just for those who are not familiar with that awesome feature that my fingers are still aching from developing that. So yeah.
Yeah, and it's like so there's also, just in the more broad perspective of the being a quant type of thing, so there's one thing when you're dealing with stable data sets or like a set data set, right? So we don't actually have to insert data there constantly, because that actually will allow to do forward testing aside of the back testing as well, and also live execution. So kind of when considering like a data provider and a database solution, whatever it is that you're being using, so using a local machine is totally fine for, generally speaking, for back testing stuff. That's something that you can do it on, but ultimately actually properly trading and doing that kind of stuff, it will always be reliant on a cloud infrastructure nowadays.
Yes.
Unless somebody's running a server farm in their backyard, so that's always that's maybe another thing there, but yeah.
Yeah, and I think that kind of touches on the roadmap. So maybe we can shed some light on that. So so currently we're working hard to make different data types available, including order book snapshots, and the derivatives data, which is also very valuable if you're serious about trading. So that is something that we're working on. Next, we want to extend this into capability of trade execution, right? Where we want to make available live, up-to-date order books that you can connect from this personalized environment. And this is basically more or less a dedicated server that is running for every user. So it's there. It's running on state-of-the-art cloud infrastructure. So it's very reliable, and yes, you can develop at some point your trading scripts in Python and use the database and other services that we will provide to create signals and do trade execution. Yes.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, we do have that terminal access there somewhere buried, which we tested, which was surprising actually. For that.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. So I guess to go a bit more into the bulk of the webinar, let's say. So there's only one language to get started with as a quant. There are many programming languages, and we can debate the benefits of them, but I think the consensus when it comes to data science, quant stuff, analytics is Python, at least to begin with.
Seems that way, yes. Yeah.
Yeah, that's yes, we I guess some of us in this webinar are more in the Java, more familiar with that, but yeah. So, but the good thing is that like from experience in terms of you know, the variable declarations and stuff you have to do in Java and C. I mean, in Python you don't have to do that, which is super convenient because I guess it does it under the hood. So basically you have different type of objects. So you have strings, which are these things which are in quotations. You got numbers, which are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So integer whole numbers. There's float numbers, so you with a decimal and stuff. There's a nice, by the way, there's a very nice function which is called type, which allows you to actually see the type of the object. And I'm just not going to go through all of this because these things is actually in our community environment, which is available. But just show people that there's a way to kind of, let's say, distance learning materials here. So yeah, understanding the basics of Python is pretty important here. So print statements, so you can print stuff on the console with the legendary hello world, which is, I guess, the stuff where things start usually.
Yeah, and there's also great great courses and tutorials on Python for anywhere between 10 and 20 bucks on Udemy, for instance, or many other websites. And
yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So learning Python is actually, yeah, I guess maybe step one if you're serious about it.
Yeah. Yeah,
but I guess most people do have some basic skills, right, from in that area, I would imagine. If you're a quant or right had some university courses there, then typically this is something you could already do or are very close to understanding.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, so different type of objects, lists, loops. These are things that are needed for kind of so this is step 0 basically in the kind of becoming a quant journey, let's say. Understanding Python and all the things, especially the looping, the listing. It makes a lot of sense when you need to deal with a number of data sets. You need to kind of create a process where you process a lot of them at this one go. So not just one table or one data set, but you take 100 data sets, you run your analyze on it, and then you just go over that list of 100 data sets and makes that easier. Oh, let's leave the page. So yeah, I guess that's step number 1.
Step number 0, yes, I think that.
Step number 0, yeah. But yeah, so okay, then let's get to step number 1. So the actual, how do you say, the actual stuff. So let's get the data out of the QuestDB to be able to analyze it, right? Yes. We gotta do that. So okay, in QuestDB you can run a SQL query like this, for example, and we can also specify it. So we're seeing that there's a bitstamp and crock and exchanges here. So we got to select one of them for these purposes. So we can just write them here. Like this. So what we're seeing now, right? We just filtered. So we just we removed the bitstamp rows here. Now we just have the Kraken ones left, right?
Yep.
So this is kind of this SQL or Postgres operation, I guess.
That's just standard SQL. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So standard SQL basically. So we got to be able to do something like this for us to make any sense of the data.
Yeah. There's actually since you selected 2 markets, we're still looking at 2 markets in the query that you created.
Oh. Okay. Let's see. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, yes, I see. And what was the other one? Let's see. We're looking at instrument, right?
Yep.
Equals. Oh, I'm getting. This is an annoying thing. This. Yeah.
Yeah.
BTC USD. Okay, let's see what happens here. Okay, so now we're looking at one market only.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So so this is what we want to get, right? So we have a lot of different things in one data table, but we want to put them out so that we just have one instrument, one market, so we can plot it and it's the same time series. That's what we want to do here.
Yes.
And preferably, I mean, we have to do it in Jupyter, so we got to do it in Python so we can actually analyze it properly. So we have well, one script which is connect to QuestDB. So it's possible to query the database to kind of first of all see what are the tables available. And there's a query called show tables. So what we're basically doing is in the QuestDB we have we're passing the query, right? So this here is a query that we're passing to the database, and then it returns the data to us, right? And I'm actually just going to open this here so we don't have to jump between tabs. So what we want to do is basically in Python pass the same type of query to the database. So we can do it by specifying it. So here we see that we're using select star is basically just saying everything. And from,
yes.
Yeah. So this is, the from defines the table that we're querying. And this is just the table that we're querying here. So QD candle spot 1 hour, and that we're doing now. And we define the exchange ID to be bitstamp in this table. And there's a couple of important things I think need to be covered. So there's different libraries in Python. So requests is when you make requests. So those requests that you send to different services. So for example, we're making a GET request, which is one of the REST request types. And I guess there's a lot of materials on this stuff as well. But we're basically sending this request to the here to the database, and we're asking it to return this here. And then we're putting it in a pandas data frame. So there is I think one library that everybody has to know, and it's pandas in Python when you're doing data processing. So basically, this pandas library is actually this data frame here. So it is an automated way of processing the columns and the rows and running operations on them. And it's very, very optimized. So knowing how to use it properly will make life super easy when you're wanting to do analysis.
Yeah. So the and so by now we've touched on a lot of different databases, right? So we have the data that's being aggregated from the exchanges, right? That we are putting in a database, in the big ChainSlayer database, right?
Yeah.
The data aggregators kind of do the same. They have their own big database where they aggregate all that data, right? So then our workspace allows you to select several data sets that are of particular interest to you and load them into the QuestDB database, right? Which is a database that is local to you. And everything you load in there just stays there as long as that workspace is active, right? So, you can keep it up to date with new data as it becomes available. And then when you actually want to do analysis, right, then this Panda data frame, which is kind of an in-memory table, if you, I think, is maybe a good analogy, allows you to do all kinds of statistical analysis on that data. And because you, so you load it from QuestDB, which then has a subset basically of all the data sets, right, that you selected. You load a subset of that into a Panda data frame, and there you can do statistical analysis. And because it's then kind of in memory, it's very fast. And yeah. So that's a multi-step process, and you're always taking yet a smaller slice to do the actual analysis on. But all the data that you load into QuestDB, it kind of stays there, right, until you delete the table yourself. the pandas data frame is gone once you stop the notebook, right, or restart the notebook. But
yeah, and it's surprisingly, like, just to get to this point, it's surprisingly heavy task. That was something that I think I definitely figured out when I was first putting up the, like, before ChainSlayer, putting out the databases in and trying to access the data in Python and everything else. And I mean, you've been working on that for I don't know even how long, but it's surprisingly, that's just to get started is a surprising amount of work. I mean, at least properly.
yes, and that is definitely so. So with our cool Quant desk environment, that has become much simpler, but still it is. You do need to properly understand what you're doing, and definitely also be able to do some Python there. Yes, but it's also very rewarding when you then see that data on the screen, right?
Yeah, it is like the best
Finally,
feeling ever,
oh,
honestly.
really?
When you
Yeah,
get it,
great.
it's
Exactly.
yeah, it's such a good feeling.
Yeah.
Yeah, and when like when you get a model correct as well, it's really that because the thing is that there's only right or wrong answer. It doesn't allow for that ambiguity. So you got it right or you got it wrong. I mean, there's either an error message or access is working or whatever.
Yes. Well, yeah.
Yeah. Um, yeah. But so okay, so there is one tutorial we have, and again, all of this is available in our in the community environment for our community members. So if you just join the Discord, you're gonna be able to get the access to all these scripts. But yeah, so basically getting the data is step number one then. Finding a way to do it and using a request library in Python is very important for that, and then storing it in pandas data frame objects.
Yeah, for those who are used to accessing data in a Postgres database from Python, right? QuestDB can also be accessed from using Postgres libraries, right? And it's done running on a different port. I think it's 8821. I'm not sure. I'll look that up.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I guess then the second thing that would be good, I mean, generally, I mean, learning how to visualize stuff is very important. Like that's so most of the let's say like this, most of the analyze is just numbers. So you got to put some logic there. So buy if conditions are met, sell if conditions are met, and buy this proportion, sell this proportion. That's roughly speaking the kind of the trading logic that are going to be, that's where it's going to go with the backtesting. But it's quite oftentimes it actually helps to be able to visualize it. Whatever's been done to put overlaid on a chart, and then really understanding those tools, how to, because it's not only about having like a trading view type of like a candle chart that you can put like these indicators on, for example, but it's also a lot about being able to do histograms and different kind of to see like oscillations around a mean or something. So that's where the visualizations really help, because they understand like to see some sort of qualities in a larger data set very instantly. So as kind of a data scientist, quant, that's a very important skill to have. So there's a couple libraries which are very good. So pandas, so pandas is one. Plotly is another one. I know people are using high charts as well, and a few others, but sorry, not pandas, Plotly here, and I think we have bokeh as well. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, sorry about that. So Plotly, bokeh, matplotlib. There's a few visualization libraries which are very well known and also integrated to another libraries as well. So yeah, that's important stuff to learn, and yeah, I don't know. We can we have this tutorial too, which is about visualizing market data. It just so again, what we do here is we're gonna do candlesticks, for example. So we just have this data frame in pandas where we've plotted this hourly data. So 1 hour increments is each row, open, high, low, close data, BTC USD from Bitstamp, and we can just make it into candlesticks. My browser is, my computer is a bit slow, so it's the rendering I think takes some time, especially with the, now that this data set is a bit larger than, okay, let's see. Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, it's my working with legacy infrastructure locally, let's say. But yeah, we can see that, you know, when we zoom in enough, you know, we can see these are candles clearly. And then, you know, it's, so this is why we're using Plotly for this, I think. So the nice feature with Plotly for sure is that you can zoom in nicely like this. And you know, once you scroll over, you're able to see this all the data points. And this stuff is so basically when you're analyzing, and we can get to that later in the backtesting thing. But I mean, you kind of wanna, you know, you're predicting market movements, right? So you're gonna have at some point here, you're gonna have like things like a signal to buy or sell with expectation going up or low or whatever you do. So yeah, visualization, which is clear, just makes it so much easier to understand. Yeah, so that's yeah. Anyways, that's and then it's also possible to add other things. So you know, moving averages, which is until now has been a recurring topic of our tutorials. So we're getting that's for those who are doing technical analysis, is a very well-known indicator. So moving average is just basically, you know, you take, let's say, there's different type of moving averages, but the simple moving average is just taking a window, in this case of 20, so 20 candles, averaging it out, taking the next 20 candles, next, moving it one candle by candle, that window, and then drawing the line here. So, but we can just see that here we've plotted, for example, the moving averages with the candles. So we know that what is the general price average going, you know, with respect to the candles. So this kind of thing is beneficial. And, you know, being able to do this on a kind of a code level allows you to create your custom indicators, something that's not being offered, which then is, I mean, as a quant, you know, you're going to start with a hypothesis, with some sort of a idea of how the markets could move if these are the conditions. And then, you know, being able to program it visually, you know, it's just very useful. It's, yeah, very, very useful. And this one is actually, oh, getting some sort of error here. Oh, no, we just had to do the other one before.
Well, that's another thing you probably kind of need to get used to, right?
Yeah.
Nobody writes perfect code in the first try, so yeah, understanding error messages. But I think most of the error messages, especially here, are very descriptive, and are typically very clear on what you need to what you did wrong or what it expects. So.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. It's yeah, and it's yeah, the debugging thing is also, I mean, these things like Jupyter makes it really easy, the debugging. Like, unless you're writing really complex programs, then you need like a proper IDE. But for this, it's for the actual data science use case, the notebooks are really great. Like, it becomes very, very easy to use after the basics are there.
Yeah. So what are we looking at, Ekin,
yeah.
here?
So these are just the daily returns on BTC USD. We're looking at August here. So this is just, I mean, you know, when you're thinking a daily return, that's like so think about it this way. Today the price is 10,000. Tomorrow it's 12,000. So today the daily return has been from the previous day 2,000. So that's basically just, we kind of do a poor man's differentiation of the data. So we're just saying that what's the, we could say, for example, delta from the previous time.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
delta is just a word to use to describe a change. So what is the change from the previous time frame? And this is just plotting that. So by the way, understanding that, a lot of people, they look at what is the actual price, so how the price moves. But for, I think, majority of the analysis, the change in price is more interesting oftentimes. So you can take an absolute change. So thinking in terms of, if there's, in this case, 10,000 to 12,000, that's a $2,000 change, or euro, whatever we use there. But we can also do it as a percentage. So then that would be just basically, that would be like 12,000 minus 10,000 divided by 12,000, 10,000. So we would be looking at 20% change effectively there, because it would be 2,000 divided by 10, I think. So yeah, so putting things in like proportions makes it somehow easier to analyze in certain cases.
Yep.
So it's also really about understanding the context of the numbers. What it many times comes down to is really being able to understand that. And then that's a skill that will develop as more analysis is being run, I guess. Yeah, so this is the tutorial 2 that we have, which is visualizing market data. And it just, the idea here is to, so here we have, so this is, for example, this is pretty cool. So I think we have the standard deviations here of the returns, if I'm not completely, this is above 2 standard deviations. So what we're looking at here, for example, is we wanna think about which returns are not normal. So there's this statistical concept called standard deviation, which is you take the mean of the variance. You find like how far away is that event from the normality, let's say. So we're using normally 2 standard deviations, what you get like in a stats class. But by the way, here's the thing. If you understand how to program properly, you can just this standard deviation thing, for example, you can just customize. You can put it a range from 1.5 to 3 and figure out what range actually works best for your analysis. So what gives you the best results in your trading strategy? But anyways, basically what we're looking at here is somewhat interesting. For example, let's take this period in August. We could take the other ones as well. But so here we're seeing that, everything that falls within these blue lines is kind of the normal returns. Okay, so basically on an average day, about, I'm guessing this is like 93-4%, I can't remember how much that is, of stuff would basically fall between these lines. But when it's going out of there, we know that there's much more, price going up or down. So the volatility of the asset has been, super high compared to the normal one. So if we, for example, also look in the recent, this month or wherever we are, I don't know exactly what days we're looking at, but let's see here. Okay, so this is basically end of November this month. So we see there's a lot of like these kind of outlier events, right?
Yep.
So it's become much like almost normality, as we've seen in the markets now, that the volatility of the assets is going, or in this case, Bitcoin is going, that the price is really volatile. It goes really high up or really high low down.
Yes.
Yeah, so basically this type of stuff can be also automated. So you can, for example, build something. If you're volatility trading, you can build a signal, like a system to signal you and like alert you, for example, send you an email or do something that, hey, now there's a big volatility that happened in this 1 hour candle. And you can do that for 100 markets. So you don't need to actually watch the chart every day on 100 markets, because nobody can do that. So that's kind of something that will kind of allow to take really the bulky like manual work out of the thing, because you just need to understand what are the conditions you want to program in it. So that will be fairly easy to do. Like it will not take from understanding the basics of Python and then it'll take 1 week to program that. It's not going to be, I mean, longer than that, I think.
Yep.
And I think and our community is also, by the way, quite helpful. So we're definitely, willing to kind of have calls with people to help them, improve this kind of stuff. So because I think we got to speed it up a bit. I think time wise we're getting.
Yep. Yeah, we're close to the hour mark. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, anyways, understanding visualization is very important because of this. You want to know how to deal with this stuff exactly here, how to put the lines, the standard deviations, whatever metrics you're measuring, how to put the events that are valuable for your trading strategy, and how to visualize it and see. Then there's some aesthetic things like putting charts on a similar axis, below each other, below each other like this, for example. This is aesthetic nice thing to do. So now we can put the volume there, and we could put other metrics too. But yeah, let's move on, because this will otherwise we'll be starting to program these now, and
Yes.
we'll never be finished.
Stumble on a very profitable strategy, and then we have to stop the webinar and start selling or buying. Right.
Exactly. Yeah, we don't want to get into that now. Okay, but yeah, visualizing is very important. And tutorial too. Again, community instance is available. It's free to use for the community members. Highly recommend to try it out. It is not private though, so it is not perhaps wisest thing to put your most profitable analysis there, but it's a good way to get kind of test how to get this stuff started.
Yeah, and if you're interested in a private instance, then please reach out, and we're very close to launching our product, and
yeah.
So we'll see what we can do to set that up. There's those lovely
yeah, there it is. Oh yes, I know what we're doing. Let me just quickly. I don't know how this happened. I'm pretty sure I fixed all these errors before, but it did not happen apparently. So let's just change the query to. Oh, did I freeze? No, my browser is freezing.
Yeah, it's
okay. Now we're getting there. And there we go. Okay, back in business, let's say. Indicators. I mean, I think so.
So we're looking at the data set we're looking at here is Bitstamp, BTC USD, spot, and then the 1 hour candles, right?
Yeah. Bitstamp, BTC USD, 1 hour candles. Yeah, exactly.
Okay, good.
So Bollinger Bands, which is basically plotting the standard deviations above and below, and roughly speaking, and the mean in the middle. This is a great way to understand if we're, if the price is going deviating from would be the expected range of the price to move in the next candle, for example.
Yep.
Very used, very highly used. So this is the configuration we're using now in the tutorial, but I mean, all these colors and ranges, whatever there is, then can be quite easily changed. And I mean, everybody has seen, I think, in this call, the stuff in like, TradingView or Binance or something.
Yep.
But it's also being able to customize these and then backtest based on them. Will allow, you want to be, for example, that kind of one strategy is, the idea is that when the candle hits the upper Bollinger Band, it's going to mean revert towards the mean here at a some time some time frame in the future. So basically, when we're getting here that the candle closes out, on the upper Bollinger Band, then we want to basically go short and put it wait for the price to go down. And when it goes here on the bottom of the Bollinger Band, we're expecting the price to mean revert again to the mean. So it would go up a bit, right? So these are, this is a well-known strategy for mean reversion that people are trading on. I'm not saying that you should do it, but for backtesting, being able to customize the Bollinger Bands, the candles, makes life much easier, because then you can find, okay, this is the Bollinger Band metrics that we want to use. And then these are, for example, the buy and sell conditions, so that you actually optimize the profitability of your idea, because you always start with the idea of a strategy, and then you optimize it towards the actual best performance.
Yeah. Having said that, maybe a very obvious disclaimer: this is not financial advice.
Yes. This is not financial advice.
So.
This is,
right. Yes. Yeah. And so we're constantly zooming in, right? So that is because we're looking at a very long time range, right? I think our data set that we selected, that you loaded, started in June 1st, right?
Yeah.
So if that's not of interest, right, then you can select a smaller data set in your query here in Python, and then you don't have to zoom in that much.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, we're just using these. Yeah, and here's another thing. Once you understand how to process the TA libraries, the technical analyze libraries, it makes it easier to use these type of indicators, so your RSI, and just plot it, or like pipe it into your backtesting, which I think is the next one we can see, and then really customize it. But yeah, here's the number 3 tutorial. So that's on processing of data. By the way, we're using Tulipy. Because there's the TA lib, but we heard there was some notes that there was a bunch of errors when we would pipe it into backtesting libraries. So there would be Tulipy would be optimal, but I mean, there's also the TA lib, which is fairly well known and used. For this, we did Tulipy.
And we actually have, I think, quite a list of libraries available in this environment.
Yeah.
I don't have one at hand, but I think we should post a list in our community, so people know what they can use.
Yeah. Let me see. Actually, yeah.
I think volume is called.
It's baseball nowadays, I think.
Baseball, yes.
Yeah. We integrated the base volume. So that's like how much volume is on Bitcoin in any pair. Like, let's say it's Bitcoin USD pair. So the base volume would be how many Bitcoins have been traded.
Yes.
As volume. And then if it's like USD, then that's how many USD worth of Bitcoin has been traded.
Yes.
So that's
we also have quote volume.
Yeah, that's the the quotes.
And you can so it's not part of the standard data set, but in the data set options, when you select a data set in the data catalog, then you can also add that column as well, so you don't have to calculate it.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. So okay, backtesting, by the way, I'm pretty sure most people know what that is, but I mean, we're just basically, the idea of backtesting is you take a data set and you just test, row by row. Let's say this data set starts from 1st of June, 2020. So you take this here, the 1st of June data, then you move, this is hour 1, then hour 2, you move to hour 2, and you see if your conditions were met for buying and selling, then you buy and sell according to those conditions. Then you go to the next hour and you see that if your position has to be changed. And you just move time frame by time frame and figure out what would be the result of your strategy, roughly speaking. So this is tutorial 4 for our
so backtesting will tell you based on historic data how profitable your strategy would be, right?
Yeah.
And then the next step obviously is then to take that strategy, if it's not completely crazy, and then try to find the perfect values and thresholds and dials to optimize your profits.
Yeah,
right?
that would be the optimization part.
Yes.
I think we actually still have to up. We didn't. I wasn't actually sure that we would get to that, but let's do it after. So yeah. So okay, what we are using is called backtesting. So this is a lightweight backtesting library. This is for so we could say this is something that is easy to get started with. It is not the most complex. Probably doesn't also have the most features from what I've seen, but it's fairly good with the visualizations and the results that we're getting with this. So basically, the idea is that in this specific library, you define a class which is the strategy, and in this class you have a couple of functions you have to do and things you have to do. So for this strategy, we're using the moving average cross. So that this is the simplest strategy that is like in every like backtesting 101 tutorials. So basically, just taking a short moving average and a long moving average. So the long moving average moves slower than the short moving average. So basically, it means that the short moving average will oscillate around the long moving average on a let's say a description level. So when it goes below when the short moving average crosses the long moving average and like downward, it means that you would expect that there's a downward price trend. So then you would sell or short, depends on what you're doing. And then when it goes from below the higher, the longer moving average and crosses it, so then you would expect that there's a price trend upwards. So then you would buy. So this is a trend following strategy, really trading 101 type of stuff. But I don't know actually if he's here, but I have one friend who's been doing this. And if you're like, depends on your strategy, right? So if you're looking to kind of, let's say, invest and not actively trade all the time, then this is something that you can use as you find out those kind of points where you want to longer term buy and sell. Because if you put these averages into 150 or whatever those are, you can be 50-day averages. So it's a long term. We're talking about long price trends here. So that's one easy way to get some indications there on those. But then, I mean, this can be used as a shorter term as well. But yeah, anyway, so basically, the idea for the backtest is to calculate the strategy based on the data and get some results. So now we see that for this strategy, it would have been running for 200 days. And we would have started at, by the way, at $10,000. And what we see is that we would end up with 9,000 for this particular strategy. So perhaps not the best one to trade with. So so for this one, yeah, it's not a very profitable one. But the idea is that now you have an automated way of actually seeing if this type of trading would have worked, right? So if you're thinking it like that, does this work? Well, it's easy to program it, relatively easy in this case, because the library is there, and then just check it out. I guess generally as a backtester, taking things like trading fees into account is very important. And I think as a general note, if you're doing very short duration strategies, then actually things like liquidity, order book depth, and stuff matters. But if you're trading with 1 hour timeframes or 2 hour or daily timeframes, you're basically going to be able to buy stuff at that price, roughly speaking, because you would be talking about larger price moves, I would imagine. So also the time frame of the strategy will impact on what type of backtesting is actually meaningful. So that's one thing to perhaps take into account. I mean, it's always better to be more precise, but in all cases, it's not really needed. If yeah, but yeah, the good thing is with this library, it returns, the kind of nice things. So what we want to be looking for is the return, obviously. So this is in percentage. We're getting a 9% decrease in our capital. The equity peak. So what was the highest value of our capital if we start with 10,000? There's the drawdown. Sorry, drawdown is what we want to be looking for. So what was the biggest risk basically we were having? Here 10%, which is a fairly decent one. I mean, depends on the type of strategy, but like drawdown means that you start with 10K or $10,000, for example, in this case, and then let's say if you only had 1,000 left at some point, any point in this strategy, you had 90% drawdown. So you don't want to go there because that's a very high risk. Well, things like the amount of trades, what's the win rate of the trades, what is the best trade? These are the things that you generally want to optimize for. So these will tell you how the strategy actually executed during the backtesting period. You don't always need to have a very high win rate if you just have a very high profitability. So it doesn't, because we're talking about a statistical process here, or like a measured quantifiable process. So it's totally fine to have a 40%, 30% win rate if you're doing three times the profit on average, because then you just need to win once or twice big, and then it will cover for all the worst, the trades that didn't work out. Yeah. So those kind of things. Anyways, they will be there. This library offers quite nicely the trades, so we can actually see what were the actual trades that were being executed, because that's something that you want to see and you want to actually plot. These entries you can just overlay on a bar chart very nicely, which is being done, by the way, by the library itself already. But I mean, we can see that it basically traded in the beginning, and that's where the losses are, I think, in this case. So let's just zoom in a bit. I think I'm having I'm having a bit of a browser issue here. It's very slowly zooming in.
We should get you a new laptop. It's ridiculous.
Yes, I'll be.
Yeah.
I'll set up the other one now. Yes. Anyways, sorry about this, guys. This is a bit of a snail pace. Okay, but we want to see, positions where it went long and short, so we can just see them here. I mean, what were the positions that it took? So this is the kind of stuff that you want to be looking for in the whatever backtesting library you're going to be using. So it allows to overlay the candles, check out the general price trends, and see the positions that the library actually took itself. And
right.
then
so these are the, let's say, the theoretical trades that would have been executed based on the strategy that we plotted earlier, that we defined earlier.
Yeah.
Right. So would we, starting June 1st, have executed this strategy ourselves, then we would have ended up with a loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And here it shows then which trades, which buys and sells it did, and so you can analyze. You can see basically the trades in context, and so this is not taking into account order book liquidity, but that actually only matters if you go down to, let's say, the minute level, or try to distill signals from actual trades.
Yeah, it really depends on the time frame, and I mean, if you're trading on a long time frame, but you're a giant hedge fund and you're deploying €1 billion on this, yeah, then liquidity matters, you know. But if you're doing a, you know, normal retail type of capital, I mean, and you're doing daily trading, I mean, the profits in that kind of a strategy, in this case, if you would predict price movement, would come from a longer term kind of price move. So you're going to be able to acquire the, you know, whatever you're buying with a reasonably close to the spot price. So then it doesn't matter. But things like shorter time frame market making level stuff, I mean, then it definitely matters the liquidity, and you want to keep the order book in mind. But yeah, I mean, that's why kind of when choosing the data or the data provider, it's good to understand that, you know, depending on the type of strategy, that they match that, and at least if you have something in mind that they can provide that later as well. So it's kind of to have that flexibility, so you don't have to, once you build kind of because the thing is that there's a legacy cost always when it comes to the infrastructure. So you do the one integration, you work with one environment. I mean, you got, you know, like to be able to have all the features that you need, and to build that, then, you know, starting from another one is always a new building time that you have to take, basically.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So so we've kind of went through how to get data into our database, then into our QuestDB database in this environment, right? We looked at how you can access that data from the Jupyter environment, which allows you to use Python to query that data, extract it, load it into memory, and then manipulate it. So we've seen adding indicators to it, right? We've seen crunching the numbers, plotting it, plotting different aspects and statistical analyses, and finally run an actual backtest strategy on that data and analyze its performance, right?
Yeah.
So so then I guess next, right, is because our current strategy is not very profitable. How would we go about optimizing that and make it more profitable? So
yeah,
what would be a next step here?
Yeah. So I think what we're gonna do is we're gonna leave the actual webinar of that for the next one, but I'll just give a short overview, right? Because we're gonna be running out of time, and I don't want to cut it too close, you know, because but that will be coming. So that's for sure promised that we will do a more detailed one on the optimization. But I mean, generally the idea, right? And this is why you wanna, you know, kind of again really delve into understanding how to work with Python, because we have two values, right? So we have 10 and we have 20 as the moving averages, and we're building our strategy based on those.
This particular strategy, right?
This particular
all
strategy.
the possible strategies. This one uses two numbers. Yes.
Yeah, we can have 4. We can have 8. We can have any number of these variables that define if the strategy should buy or sell. Because ultimately, we're always buying or selling. That's really the case. So basically, how we optimize is we take, let's say, ranges of values. So for this case, from 10 to 100, and for this case, from 20 to 200. I don't know. So we take a range of these values and we run the same backtest for each combination on those ranges. So basically, what does mean? I mean, we should always keep the shorter moving average always shorter than the longer one. I mean, that's like you don't wanna, it doesn't make sense the other way. But yeah, you want to kind of approach it in a way that, okay, this is the general idea of a strategy. So okay, let's see how we optimize it to actually see if it performs. So we did that for there's going to be a Medium article out of that in a couple of days. But I think the best ones that we saw were like 100 and anything from ranging from 170 to 195 long moving average, and short moving average between like 15 and 20 or something. Those were like the hot spots of the most profitable things, because it just buys and rides the whole wave up. Basically that's the for the last 6 months or something.
Right. Because that's so that's important, right? That's so there's a strategy, there's these numbers, but then there is obviously markets are different, right? The Cardano market is different from the Bitcoin.
Yeah.
That might be very obvious, right? But and it also varies per exchange, right? So these are all variables that you need to take into account, and you can test across exchanges, you can test across markets. But these are definitely things to take into account, and obviously there's also the general trend during that time that you're actually testing, right? So for Bitcoin, it's been I guess in the last couple of months it's been going up very well, right? So that doesn't mean that your strategy will always perform that well. It's very much based on market conditions that that might vary over time. Yes.
And that's actually the other part. So we got two parts here. So we got the quantitative analysis, but that's always in a context. So each asset has their own news cycle, their own sentiment, what's going on. If there's any new exciting releases happening, what's the general feeling of people on that? And then they have different use cases. So, you got assets which are, Cardano, Ethereum, those kind of smart contract type of blockchains, which have one specific use case, which, for example, Zcash and Monero are definitely not competing with. So there's like all of these work in different so there's a context, just to say that. So there's a reason why some strategies work at some periods with one asset type, and with the other one, it doesn't really work. So then kind of screening large amounts of pairs with these type of things, it allows you to kind of see like what type of stuff worked when with what, and then to adjust the strategy to the market conditions and also to the specific asset itself. So it really allows you to kind of contextualize stuff better, because I think it was like 20, 30 years ago, there was like the idea that you have one general model of a market and then it applies everywhere. But like nowadays, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, and I guess just to touch on that, right? So you mentioned sentiment. Just to kind of segue into one other capability of our environment is you can upload your own data sets, right? So you can import data into the QuestDB database, right? To be able to persist that, and that could be, for instance, Twitter sentiment data, or I don't know, maybe the weather, right? If the weather has like a huge impact on sentiment, or any other data set. So you can upload your own data sets, and over time we will add different types of data sets that are not necessarily data sets on crypto markets, but maybe related data sets that provide useful context that you can then put into your strategy, and see if that improves it.
Yes. Yeah, for sure. And that's actually, it allows to move away from the technical indicators purely, or the pure market data, and to go kind of the contextualization. Yeah, it actually makes a lot of sense. Ari, I cannot see the chat because I'm screen sharing. I can.
It's fairly quiet, I think, up till now.
Okay. Yeah.
So that's either very good or very bad. We seem to have lost, I think, 2 participants along the way, but let's blame that on the internet, just being the internet. Hopefully it's interesting for everybody. Let's so I think we kind of reached the end of our webinar.
But we do have an amazing website that we can still still show you. So if there's somebody who wants to get in touch with seeing what we have, yeah, we got this website here, and we got somewhere we have the so Slayer chat is our community. So if you haven't joined there yet, please do. We have an awesome group of people, honestly. So we have we have how do you say, research groups where we talk about different strategies on a weekly basis, and help each other to build better strategies and ask questions. And it's all about that kind of sharing the knowledge and the experience. So traders from various different backgrounds, and jointly building stuff. So that's it's. I think we have a pretty cool stuff going on there, and Twitter as well. So we're also present on Twitter. And we do have, for the end of the year, we have a campaign for the early adopters who want to try out our product and be the first users. So we got a 50% discount on what we have. So you just have to use a promo code. And for this one, it's Quant. So if you use the promo code Quant, it will be a 50% discount on the first 3 months of using the product. And it does come with 30 spot and derivative exchanges and more than 5K trading pairs with 2 years of historical data. So just on the kind of jump starting 2021 with the proper tools to become a quant, that's it will be a good way to start it. And it's only a limited offer, so it will be until the end of this year for that. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. So are there specific questions that we could address? If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we'll try to respond.
Yeah, and we also, by the way, we do have we're trying to how to say, the best of our ability to help people out in the community. So if there's generally kind of questions or needs that come into trading, or even if like looking for introductions or looking for whatever opportunities that you are interested in the trading realm, we're always happy to help and put you in touch with the people we know, and try to kind of grow together as a community towards a more profitable 2021, let's say.
Yes, let's make it happen.
Yeah. So how are we doing? I think yeah.
No questions. So
no questions. So I guess that concludes the webinar.
Yes. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining. Great stuff.
Awesome. Yeah.
Glad to have you. Hopefully see you in the next one. When's the next webinar, Ekin?
So we're having the Christmas, we're having the New Year's, so definitely not during that, I think. But we're starting. So actually, next year we're gonna have pretty good names, I think, coming out to give us webinars on different topics. And I think we're gonna be focusing, I think, earlier on, a couple more of these webinars. So kind of those. I think at least optimization stuff we're going to be doing, correlation maps, general kind of understanding qualities of data. So yeah, January will be definitely interesting, and I think we'll try to keep up the weekly pace of the webinars so far.
That's great. Awesome.
Yeah. So it'll be kind of a mix of doing tutorials on programming on the quant stuff versus having a guest on the industry doing their presentations and stuff. So it'll be kind of a mix of those.
Awesome. Okay. Well,
perfect.
Looking forward to it.
Absolutely. Hey guys, it's been awesome having this webinar with you. And I think with this note, I hope everybody has a very nice holiday season. And we'll continue this better, stronger, faster in 2021, right?
Absolutely. Awesome.
Awesome. Perfect.
Okay.
Cool.
Thanks, Ekin. Talk to you later, man.
Guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers. Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.